Let's go.
All right. Carl Allen, welcome to the Fantastic Escapades podcast, where we talk about the fantastic escapades of life.
That's such a cool name. Fantastic Escapades.
Yeah. So, just talking to you, we met a while ago,
Yes.
but I know you have some fantastic escapades in your life. And talking to you before, as we were getting set up here, I know you've got some fantastic escapades in your life. What would you say your biggest escapade has been so far?
As of late, if I'm being honest, it has been moving out to the Midwest and finding myself. Just before we started, you asked what would I do under the sub and how I would describe it. Artist, poet, lover of life. That is if what I would consider the term, the verbiage that I would use to describe myself as a whole. If I could just use any words to say who I am as a person, that would be it. But moving here for sure.
Yeah.
One of the biggest.
That's been an escapade for you.
Weirdly enough, yes, because coming from big cities my entire life, I was very familiar with just hustle and bustle of the world. I think one of the first things I noticed when I moved to the Midwest was there's no background white noise of the freeway. And unless you're like a native big city person like me, you don't realize how impactful that background noise is. And not having it as often or as inconsistent, that was huge.
Yeah, it takes a toll on you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Everybody that we've had as family that have come out here and visited us, like, you guys are so lucky. You don't even know it. Even know it.
It's true.
So, and for our listeners out there, we're in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yes, sir.
Which is a growing city, but it's still very rural.
I used the term Renaissance when I first moved out to Sioux Falls. I moved out to Sioux Falls specifically because of the art environment. First Fridays was kind of what brought me out. I was living in Sheldon, Iowa, moved to Sheldon, Iowa from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yep.
And, I was staying out in Sheldon, worked at a place called, oh my God, it was an environment for individuals with cerebral palsy, spectrum autism.
Sure.
I'm forgetting the name. It's been a while.
It'll come back.
Yeah, no, it will. But I had found First Fridays on a whim. I was coming out to see a friend of mine, was a former relationship partner of mine. And it was the first time I had ever been to a art environment out here in the Midwest. Yeah. And I will tell you that the moment I saw that, I was like, the next week I moved out to Sioux Falls immediately. I was like, this is where I need to be.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit. Tell me where you're from. Like, where'd you grow up?
So originally from California.
Okay.
East LA to Chula Vista is what I tell people.
Okay.
I kid you not, I moved from, I moved probably every year, almost of my life as a kid. My mother was a military brat, so she was born in Guam, raised in Italy, moved to the States.
Okay.
She speaks like 4 languages. And, so it was one of those things that was a commonality for me.
Yeah.
Moved from Santa Barbara, Irvine, Huntington, La Mesa, Chula Vista, Santee, everywhere. I mean, El Cajon, you could name it, probably had been there to some degree.
Yeah.
Now,
So I got to go out to a wedding in L.A. And
nice.
It was probably the first time that I had actually been in L.A. And talk about white noise.
Yeah.
I mean, we're on the freeway there. It's like 6 lanes across. And, I mean, there's some people that are going 110, just
Easy.
to get where they're going.
Yep. Everyone's in a hurry.
Yeah. It blew me away. And it made me feel very grateful to come back to Sioux Falls.
People talk about traffic out here, and I'm like, what do you mean traffic?
Yeah.
What's traffic?
Yeah, I know. Well, it feels like it when there's like construction the way there is right now.
It does.
But,
That's true. That's true.
Oh my God. So we found out that we were both in the military. So that makes sense. I mean,
yes.
Geez, in the military, you get this cycle of like moving like every 2 years or 3 years. And then it's like there's a ticking clock within you. Do you still have that clock going, or are you pretty comfortable where you're at right now?
I will say that clock has slowed down drastically since I've been out here. I guess through proxy, through my mom and her moving around a lot, that clock was there.
Yeah.
It was almost like I knew something was coming up, and I knew we'd be moving at some point. Though my dad at the time was not in the military, nor was my mother. It was just, I think, an inherent thing that she was used to.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I finally feel comfortable with the roots I've laid, and I'm not so eager to like uproot. There was a time where I was like, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I need to go somewhere. I need to do something.
Yeah.
And I think after having worked through that and learning that, I was finally perhaps in an environment that I could set roots finally, and learning what that meant. Yeah, no, it's kind of subsided.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's a double-edged sword for me specifically. It's kind of like, at heart, I'm an adventurer. Like having been in the military for as long as I was, seen as much of the world as I did.
Is a lot.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm a citizen of the world, right? And so to come to, like I grew up in Laverne, Minnesota.
Oh yeah, okay.
And you have roots there. Like you're just like, wait, we live in Laverne and we're growing up here.
It's different.
Yeah, but I was kind of hesitant to like grow roots, and because I want to just be adventuring. I want to be out in the world. Do you have a sense of that still?
Yes. Most of my childhood was outdoors, climbing, venturing, doing the things that, would get kids not in trouble, but, nowadays I don't think there's a lot of it. A good example was when I lived in Poway, went to a school called Rolling Hills Elementary. And we happened to be renting a house at the time that was just kind of down the street from it. We lived in the only house that's backyard opened up to what was this big hill out in the back. And it was the only place that I found reprieve and a place that I could go and venture.
Yeah.
And I was out there, if not every other day, by myself, climbing, running around, just exploring the world. Some of the best times there was just after rain, because that smell. Love the environments after a rainstorm. The smell of rain is so like such just a memorable scent in my mind. But it was a place, and I remember specifically having caught a snake and chasing my grandmother into the house with it. She's terrified of reptiles, and it was one of my, but I would have never, had I not been outdoors and adventurous, that would never been an opportunity.
Right.
I'm sure I got payback from it at some point in my life.
We have a lot in common there. I love snakes growing up. My dad taught me to catch snakes and stuff like that all the time.
I don't know why people are afraid of reptiles other than, just the unknown perhaps, but they're fascinating, and I love animals.
So what was your journey like deciding to go in the military, and then kind of, what did you do in the military?
Well, so I went after 9/11. So I graduated high school 2004, and then I took about a year. Now, my circumstances with the military, at least starting, was very interesting. I was under the impression that I was going to get sponsored by the Air Force for skateboarding. My recruiter at the time would take me to our indoor skate park in Vegas with her kid, pay for me and her kid to go to the skate park, and just kept telling me, we're going to be so excited to have such a great skater like you, part of the Air Force, blah, 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 blah. They're going to love having you. And for a year, a month at least, once a month out of the year, she was taking me over to the skate park with a kid. And when I got to the military, they're like, what's skateboarding? After graduating, and mind you, part of me also wanted to go to serve because, again, after 9/11, it was like there were some reasons I wanted to go overseas. I will say right now that I'm grateful I never scratched that itch, because I met people who did come from after, serving in Afghanistan, serving as, front guards, and having seen some of the detonations that happened, the horrible stuff that we were seeing.
Yeah.
They didn't come back the same.
Right.
So there was a part of me that was grateful that I didn't venture further than I did. But yeah, no, it was the funniest thing. I got to, went through basic training, went through my tech school, went to my base station in Luke Air Force Base in Glendale. And when I went there, I had to sign a paper for extreme sports or dangerous sports. Went through all the list. I was the first person to put skateboarding on that list. Nobody else had it on there. It was a bit of an accomplishment, I'll say. I was like, well, at least I get something, I didn't, they weren't sponsoring any skateboarders at the time. It wasn't a thing.
Right.
And, it was the funniest, but that was that was.
So did you find places in the Air Force to skateboard?
Yes, funny enough. So they had actually built a brand new skate park just outside of Luke Air Force Base. It was one of the newest skate parks there.
Nice.
They had Plan B come out, which is was a skate team at the time.
Okay.
Come out, and they ended up skating and doing a little demo. And I'd been skating most of my life since before then, so it was a big part of my life. Skateboarding saved my life at a time that I needed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was awesome to have the opportunity to be able to at least still be able to skate outside of the military. It did keep me level-headed. Kept me
something to
honest.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was easy to get kind of lost in the monotony of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And anything that you can find as an outlet while you're in it, as I'm sure you know. I mean, it gets tough. The job is the job. You got to find something to keep your mind.
Well, most people would think what you did in the Air Force is pretty cool. I mean,
fair. That's fair.
Like not everybody gets to do what you did. You want to share with us?
Yeah. So
kind of what it was.
Some of my favorite times were being able to pull pins from an F-16 as it was running, and I got to launch an F-16 once as it's usually given to crew chiefs.
Yeah.
But I did get the opportunity to do it, and I thought it was one of the most amazing things to do. Just bring the guy out, doing the thing. We're going out, and then whoop, hit the salute, and then see you off. And it was like, oh my God, was one of my favorite things.
Oh,
one of my favorite.
As you know, I was a pilot in the Air Force.
Yeah,
but
awesome.
The crew chiefs and the guys who would have such animation and and have fun with that part of the job.
Yep.
Like that provided so much joy for the people, and could see it, could watch it, and be sent off that way.
It's one of the funnest times, and again, some of the coolest opportunities. People don't know that the intake is where that's the business end. Well, not the business end. That's the intake of a very powerful engine.
Yeah.
And the danger of being up close. I mean, I don't know if I imagine you've seen videos as well as I have where you see people getting sucked into the intake.
Yeah.
They show you those just so you know what it looks like.
Don't do that.
Don't do it. Like that's a bad time. But it was really awesome to you would go through. So give you an idea that you have these points that you have to hit. To pull pins to get the aircraft ready to launch, and there is this one pin, and it's the one pin that's just at the back end of the intake of the F-16. You have to go out and reach your arm out and pull the pin because they don't want you any closer to it. And I lucked out, having long limbs, that it was one of my favorite parts because you're just like, whoa, man, there's some level of danger to that.
Could you feel the heat down there?
Weirdly enough, in that area, no. But if you got towards the back, you definitely could. It was very apparent. And I mean, Glendale, Arizona, in the middle of summer, you're in your BDUs already. You're sweating like a crazy person. And I mean, it was warm already. But yeah.
So, what about your decision to either stay in the Air Force or not? Because I know the military is definitely. For anybody in the military, anybody who's been there, it's that carrot gets dangled.
Yeah.
How was that a decision for you?
So when I got, and admittedly, so I had some disciplinary stuff that had happened. I got 2 Article 15s. One was because I refused to cut my hair. I came from getting lined up and cleaned up from barbers, and I had the tips at the end of the sideburns, and that was frowned upon.
Yeah.
I had a couple of times where it was told to me I needed to stop doing that, and unfortunately, it was just like, why is this such a big deal?
Yeah.
One Article 15, and then another one was the sergeant that I had at the time was helping me with an F-16 work. We were working on the Vulcan cannon that was inside it, and there were some panels we had to pull. OSHA was present. Dude was like, hey, I need you guys to wait before you do anything further on this because this is OSHA and their rule is law. Well, my sergeant at the time was like, well, we're going to do this anyway. And I wasn't having it. I'm like, OSHA just told us we needed to not do this. And that was the first time where I was, what do they call that? I was non-compliant. I disobeyed a direct order from a supervisor.
Okay.
That was my second Article 15.
Well,
I say that to say this. So I went and got offered by my chief master sergeant what they were doing at the time called force shaping. They were asking people who wanted to get out of the military if they wanted to leave, and they were going to let people out on a honorable discharge.
Sure.
I was told this by my chief master sergeant. We're going to get you out on an honorable. It'll be good. I mean, only 1% of the United States ever serves our armed forces. So, just the act of, I would have said, the act of doing it is enough to be able to at least be given that in regard.
Sure.
I had some disciplinary, but it wasn't anything egregious.
Right.
It was just, these things of me just trying to, whatever.
Yeah.
On my day of arraignment for my leave,
Yeah.
my chief master sergeant took vacation. I got replaced with another chief master sergeant. He was a higher level. He had the diamond. Well,
Yeah.
he had the diamond, but it was like he was grand master. I
Yeah,
forgot
okay.
what it was. I think it was still chief master sergeant.
Yeah.
But he was the one who told me, why should you get an honorable discharge when I put 20 years in? In a sense, talking me down from what would have been an honorable discharge where I would have gotten my GI Bill
Yeah.
to a discharge with, general discharge.
Yeah.
I got a general under honorable conditions.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting denied, the benefits of being someone who served his country in that regard. And so, I left because at the end of it, I wanted to be outside. I got papers, as we were talking about, after my tech school.
Yeah.
I was the only one who got papers to stay in state. All of my other classmates got papers overseas. That was my first defeat. I was like, I joined here because I wanted to go. I wanted to get out of the country.
Yeah.
And then didn't get that. And then the second one really was, well, sorry, you only were here for 3.5 years. Why should you get honorable discharge? And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I was like,
That's tough.
It's tough. And for what it's worth, I loved what I did. I enjoyed my job. I did great. Load barn had nothing but high scores all the time. It was one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the bureaucracy behind it, I just kind of, I think I got worn out from the nonsense in that regard.
Yeah.
And I was just
Well, it sounds like in talking to you, you have a very big picture now. You're kind of like out of the matrix, and just so you know, like you're not alone. Like, my military career did not end well either. And I went through a court martial.
Oh my God.
So
yeah.
But the point is like you just realize that it's not everything, right? And
Yep.
there's so much more to life.
Yep.
So what is the biggest lesson you've taken from
that? The what is it? What do they say? What shines isn't always gold, or the thing that looks shiny, that looks awesome, that looks like it's gonna put you in a place of success or status, sometimes isn't the thing that you think it is. I loved what I did. I enjoyed the lessons, and the training that I got from it will never leave me. Mm-hmm. But I think that looking at it, the conflict was I just didn't align with a lot of the things that were there about it. I wanted to serve my country in different means. Going over and fighting against people who, were no different than I was difficult. The idea.
Yeah.
And then you realize some of it just, it was tough.
Yeah.
And I think it was really like, I am a wholesome individual who wants to help people.
Yeah.
I can find better ways to do it.
Yeah.
This was a little bit more difficult for me in that regard.
I think there's that speech that Steve Jobs gave, like, here's to the crazy ones. Have you heard that?
No. No.
We should look it up. I don't have it memorized.
No, that's all right.
But here's to the crazy ones. Like, it takes somebody to think outside the box and to get outside the matrix to help other people see that, like, you don't need to be so structured and there's a time and a place for it. Obviously, you're pulling pins on F-16s or you're
you can't play around
flying,
with that.
There's definite structure required. But like I would say, I've transitioned into a creative, time in my life. Not that I haven't been creative in the past, but when you're doing very structured things, it's not a very creative environment.
Right. Right.
So
It's true.
as you think of the word creativity and how you've transitioned, what is vibrating inside of you? Like what wants to get out?
Man, words, feelings, God, shared perspective. I think one of the things that changed me in a great deal towards, I would say, my betterment, was the opportunity. I mean, mind you, I was always able to learn and grow from, my mom. She was very creative, at least in her regard in art, music, and singing.
Sure.
My grandmother was very creative. She had a room dedicated to all of her artwork and the things that she was doing. Even though isolated, it was her reprieve. But I had always been around really strong people, specifically strong women, who had a lot of things to say, but didn't really have a platform to say it. And I think for me, it was, recognizing like the things that I have been wanting to say have all been a reflection of some of the struggles and conflicts I've gone and had to deal with, and maybe my internal battle to face the demons or monsters that were created from my trauma, and share them in a way that was non-invasive, but share them in a way that, now would be constructive to other people. Like, hey, I understand that you've probably gone through some things. Here are some ways to be able to get it out, and some constructive ways, so that we're not perpetuating the same thing that was bestowed upon us by other people who didn't know how to deal with their trauma and frustrations. Because I recognize that's a big thing.
Well, we need to hear your voice. There's this funny TikTok or Instagram video I heard. It's just a girl who's talking about this story, and she was a younger girl, and the boys wanted to see her boobs. And so they went to a friend and they said, put your knees together. And she drew nipples on the knees. and she sends this picture over.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And so the guys who received this picture were like, wow, boobs, and she let this ride for a while.
Yeah.
And, maybe 5 days go by in school, and she's like, those are knees, right? And he was like so disappointed. He's like, "What?"
Yeah.
And he's like, the girl was like, what do you care? You can find boobs on the internet anywhere. And he said, I didn't want to see any boobs. I wanted to see your boobs.
Yeah.
And the point of the story was like, we need to hear your story.
Yeah.
Like if you've got a story to tell, and you're quiet, or you're shy about putting it out there, or having a voice. We need to hear your story.
And I think the conflict in myself in being vocal and communicating my story has been recognizing that there are people who unfortunately have either never been taught or have been insecure in regards to sharing that. And their response to, and maybe why you have haters, why we have people that feel, insecure when they see other people doing that, is because we want to share our voice, but we don't know how. And sometimes a person sharing their voice, especially if they're doing it in a way that is inspiring, sometimes does inspire negative emotions first. Certainly it gives a person an opportunity to maybe look and reflect as to why they feel that way. But I know that, there's always the adverse to it. When I share what I'm saying, I have to respect that there may be people who feel uncomfortable about it or feel insecure about it, because I recognize that there were times in my life where, I wanted to do these things. I wanted to be out there. I wanted to put myself out there in that way. And I'd be around people who were, and I'd feel a little insecure around them. I'd feel a kind of way about it, because I didn't either know how, or I didn't feel comfortable myself putting myself out there. And I was, in conflict, where the internal conflict was projecting on other people when it wasn't them, it was me.
Right, for sure.
And, that's not to say that should stifle anybody, and it shouldn't really keep people from being vocal and being creative. But it's something that I guess as an artist, I've had to recognize and at least accept. Because once I accepted it, then it's like, well, I'm still going to put it out there. I just need to accept that not everybody's going to like it, and it doesn't matter.
So tell me specifically, like, what forms of creation are you doing? I've heard a little bit about like music or poetry or podcasting. Like what are you doing? How are you using your voice?
As of late, it's been through podcasting. There have been on the occasion, so June of a year and a half ago, I was able to work with Zach Van Harris, who is the curator and president of the African American Museum in Washington Pavilion. And it was the first time I got to work with Porter Williams, which was definitely a step in a direction I was wanting to go. And just knowing that like he was a big figure, at least in the Black community in Sioux Falls. So I got to work with him. putting an art installation in the African American Museum for the effort of displaying the process and the kind of the timeline at which, the Black community had provided and contributed to the space exploration program in the United States, and it hadn't been a big thing. People sometimes get, the reflecting on the lack of representation, I would say. That was one of those opportunities. I got to do this I got to have the biggest space in that whole environment and create what was essentially the Serengeti and what it would look like for people who were at that time in the middle of nowhere by a fire, looking at the stars and seeing the moon and just looking at like, wow. And, what is it to create that first experience of when we looked at the stars? And that was one of the cool experiences. So I got to work with Porter Williams. I got to go over to his house and help him with some, a building of a ship. Just really awesome environment to be around somebody like that.
Yeah.
Done some art installations outside of that. Did one that was in between Queen City Bakery and Our Wine Bar. I had done that back in 2019.
Is that
It's that little art gallery, that glass encased gallery that's there. Most people don't know that, it's been there. And, I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. But there's a woman who pretty much she owns the property for 8th and Railroad.
Okay.
And she has created that space for artists to go and be there.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is go and talk to the guy, fill out a little thing, and if it's available and you're an artist, you can use that space for free.
Okay.
For a month basis.
Okay.
Or 2-month basis. And you can display your artwork. And it was just an awesome opportunity. So I ended up creating art installation specifically for that, and it was the year before COVID hit. And I had built that together and put that together for that purpose because I was like, I just wanted to create this environment.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, COVID hit and, nobody was outside.
Yeah.
But it was an awesome opportunity to kind of do that.
Sioux Falls has got a lot of interesting things. Like right in that area where you're talking, there's that statue or the...
Yes. The statue walk or there's Bronze Age used to be in that area. Yeah, there's a couple of artists. There's a lot of like places in that space that cultivate for artists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of metal work like along Phillips and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah. The sculpture walk.
Yep.
Sculpture walk.
Yes.
Poetry was the other one. I had started spoken word back when I was just out of high school. A friend of mine whose brother used to have in his garage, he'd be in there recording himself, freestyling and writing. That was my first experience.
Okay.
Then in the military, after I got out, went out to North Carolina, started a group there with me and a friend. We would do our poetry, and honestly, it was hip hop, rap at the time. Then I moved back to Vegas and started diving in a little bit further and kind of doing that. But then I brought it back out here, and thankfully to the Block Collective, to Sean Lidster and Jason at the time, who were building what became Full Circle Book Co-op.
Yeah.
They had created an environment for poets, and it was where I think I honed some of my delivery.
Sure.
I'm definitely about delivery in poetry.
Yeah. So do you have anything like you've got memorized that you could share with us
Certainly.
today? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like,
no. It's,
I'll put you on the spot right now.
I love that. So it's a short one, but it's one that I had done. The old heads always told us, give respect where respect is due. And if you have to ask for respect, then it's obvious there's nobody respecting you. You can tell a strong tree by the very way it embeds its roots. That's why real recognizes real, because the only thing real ever expects is truth. That was a little short, but, so it's one of, I think, weirdly enough, that one was one I had written because of some of the experiences I had had out here.
Yeah.
I came from, a lot of OGs, a lot of guys who, came up from some, crazy means.
Yeah.
But foundationally, the thing that they respected and expected foundationally was being upfront, being real with you. And there were times out here that I felt like, people didn't understand that, didn't respect it.
Sure.
So I wrote that, weirdly enough, as a little poke to some of the folks that I had met in Sioux Falls.
Well, it's beautiful. I mean,
appreciate you.
Yeah.
It's a short one, but yeah.
I have seen other people do similar things. Have you heard of Princey?
No.
Okay. Yeah,
Prince E or
I think
Princey? One word.
Prince E.
That's
E
cool.
A.
Okay.
It might be more than that, but yeah. But it's that kind of stuff. It's very powerful. Like that right there. I mean, just gave me goosebumps. Seriously.
Thank you.
There's something about. You can see here. I'm a big fan of Dr. Seuss.
Yes, I wanted to tell you that book was the very book my pops gave me before I went to the military. Oh,
Okay.
The Places You Will Go.
Yeah.
I have a copy of that.
Yeah.
And it is a telling story of being adventuresome and being explorative.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know that is amazing that you have that.
Yep.
It's a testament to being in the right places when you need to be and knowing that I'm on the path.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's also shares with the reader that everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you're stuck in the lurch, like you're going to get out of the lurch. If you're in the waiting place, that's not a place for you.
Yeah.
And then I've got this one framed. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Kid,
amazing.
You'll move mountains.
Amazing.
But it's just
I
like
love that you know that.
It's walking through life knowing
Yeah.
that, because sometimes we forget. Sometimes we walk through life and we're worried about everything and how's it going to work out.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go off of Dr. Seuss here.
Yes.
So tell me a time where you felt like you were stuck in the lurch.
Oh man. Well, there's several moments. I will say that when I first felt it, it was definitely when I moved to Sheldon, Iowa. That was, and it has nothing to do with the people or the environment. I think it was the first time that I had moved away from what was familiar to me to the time where I had to genuinely take an effort and account and audit of myself. And that was one of the hardest moments that I think I had ever had to encounter. Mm-hmm. Sure, you could do that in the military, and yes, I was tested there, but when it came to the physical aspect of myself, I was through trial and fire in skateboarding. So physical effort, exertion was never a concern for me. Mm-hmm. I loved basic training. Mm-hmm. I wish I had gone Marines because I don't think the Air Force was enough.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, you know what I mean? But I learned what I need to. But being isolated, being alone, genuinely, really, where you have no familiarity, you are in an environment where you're completely by yourself in some of the beautifully depicted images in Dr. Seuss's The Places You Will Go. Completely, genuinely a great reflection as to what it feels like being isolated and in that. And I think that was probably one of the first times where I recognized, man, I am definitely in a place that is very unfamiliar to me. And it was scary. Yeah. It was uncomfortable. It was hard. And then I realized, I have these things that that I know that I can do, that, there are resources. If I don't go out and explore, then I'm doing myself a disservice. Yeah. So why not take that adventuresome attitude that I've had and maybe refashion it in a way where now I'm going out and connecting with new people. Yeah. And I did, and I found a gym.
So that was your pathway out.
That was one of my pathways out. Was, I didn't work out I never got to the gym because it reflected my father, and I just didn't like the person at the time. But now I realize that was a dumb thing because I let somebody else dictate what my physical respect or, was.
For sure.
But it was me looking at reevaluating how I engaged with people because it's not the same as it was in Vegas. I really had to make an effort to do it. And that was probably one of the first, that was one of the major, I'm in a lurch and I need to figure out how to get out. Yeah. And I did. And it wasn't easy, but man, it put me in places. Village Northwest Unlimited. That was the place that I worked at in Sheldon. Okay. It was a campus dedicated to individuals with, these disabilities. It was a place that I worked at that helped me understand nonverbal communication. Okay. And so I think if nothing else, those aspects also helped me kind of, hey, I'm okay. I'm here to help. This is an outlet that I can utilize, that I can do. I can provide a service and assistance to people who need it more than I do. Yeah. And it definitely gave me perspective and assisted in my perspective of being able to just, let's go. Let's get out and be a part of these things.
Yeah. So for anybody who's kind of feeling alone right now, what advice would you give them based on your own experience?
Find a practice. find a practice that thrives, that you thrive in, that brings you joy, that fills your cup, that warms your heart, that brings you joy. It's hard to do because a lot of the times we're so susceptible to trying living vicariously through other people, especially with social media these days. You can look at somebody and be like, oh, I want to do that because that person's doing it. It looks cool and they've got all these followers, so it must be fun.
Yeah.
And no, that's not a bad thing. If you're not doing it to genuinely find yourself, you're going to be susceptible to doing something that you may not even like, that may not even really resonate with you.
Yeah.
And then you're going to wonder why, well, it didn't last very long. Well, why didn't I do it for that long? Well, because maybe that wasn't really speaking to you.
Right.
It was just a tool that was meant to help you find what you needed to find.
Yeah.
But a practice, finding something that speaks to you, definitely is the first step. Because if nothing else, it helps you find who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of where we find that's a lot of why we find ourselves in those lurches.
Yeah. I was a physics major in
What?
college. Yeah.
I love physics.
And so,
I love physics.
Yeah, it's great. But I can't remember who said it, but like everything's vibration. I think maybe Tesla or whatever.
If
like
you want to
or
understand the
Einstein,
universe, it's in frequency,
yeah.
vibration, and
you know it.
That's
and
wonderful.
That's what I found is like the things that really excite me. There's almost this vibration in my heart for it. You know,
frisson when you hear music.
And then there's sometimes it's like, for whatever reason, you know, maybe it's social expectation or social norms or whatever. It's like I hold myself back. You know, have you ever experienced anything like that where you've got that vibration, but it's like, what will people think?
I think that goes back to the creative aspect. You know, I want to share what I'm feeling. I want to share how I am resonating.
Yeah.
I want to convey that out loud. I want to yell it on the mountain. But then it is how is that going to affect other people? You know, is my willingness to step up and yell it on the mountain going to make other people feel? Somebody had made a comment, and as I go back to, I think it was on Facebook, whatnot, but there was a guy who had expressed, you know, when people come around and say, man, this guy thinks he's all full of himself, doesn't he? Well, it's not me who thinks that. You think that. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't see myself from the outside. So if somebody's telling me, oh, that guy must be full of himself, that's usually that person's perspective on it. And it's usually a direct reflection to the insecurities or wants that they are not willing to pursue for themselves.
For sure.
Because they haven't found a practice for themselves that help them find out who they are.
Yeah.
But
so we talked a little bit before we started podcasting, your time in Las Vegas. Like, how did you end up in Las Vegas?
My mother, wonderful human being through and through, you know. When I was young, I actually did a Picha Kucha on this about my exploration on art and my artistry with accidental art. My mother had found singing at a young age. And I remember that when I was a child, they used to have like these little booths that you could go to in the malls and record covers of songs and get them on like cassette tapes. And I remember that specifically because it was the thing that got her to start singing with a guy who by the name of Bob Lenz, and I will remember his name for the rest of my life. He was a Elvis impersonator.
Okay.
And she ended up having a voice that was substantial enough to be able to participate and be his backup. So she started off as a backup singer where he would go to like car dealerships and do like entertainment when they were doing, you know, specials or whatnot.
Yeah, sure.
And that's how she started. And it was through that she ended up meeting, so there was this place called the Charcoal House where we used to live. It was when karaoke was a big fad at the time, that she would go to and sing, and you know she would do covers and whatnot, and she would sing there. And Leonard Bloom used to manage. Why am I forgetting her name? Anyway, it doesn't matter. He ended up coming out to this place at one point, and found her, and was like, "Hey, how would you like to sing in Vegas?" Vegas was a big deal at the time. There were a bunch of acts that were going around. That was before they had like Legends in Concert and all of these acts of prestige at the time. And it was like I imagine and I don't want to speak for her, but I imagine it was probably one of the craziest moments where it's like, oh, I finally made it. A manager is picking me up because they see my talent and they want to take me to the big leagues, to Vegas.
Sounds like a fantastic escapade.
Sounds like an amazing. And I mean, I was along for the ride.
Yeah.
And so, it was awesome because I got to watch my mom pursue a dream that she had for the longest time. And I got to see what that looked like and her efforts to be able to do that. And it was the thing. I kid you not, it was like moving to the Hamptons, man. We went from living, modest means, trying to get by, to having it was the first time I ever had a room with my own bathroom.
Wow.
It was the first time I ever had an indoor pool, man. Like, it was, dude, I kid you not, it was like moving up to the big leagues.
Yeah.
It was the craziest thing. And that was how we ended up. So there's this street called Tamiyasu. It is the street that, Mike Tyson lives on.
Okay.
We used to ride the bus. The bus would come and pick us up. There was times where he was training, and we would see him running with his bodyguards as we were going to school. It was the craziest thing.
Why does Mike Tyson need a bodyguard?
We used to joke about that all the time too. It's like, it doesn't even make any sense. Who would ever run up on this guy? But people need them because it's just what it is. People are crazy. But that was a big reason why we ended up moving to Vegas, was because my mom ended up getting this opportunity, and she ran with it. And so it was what got us out of what felt like, not really being able to get by or scraping by at the time, and it was the thing that at that moment was like the silver lining of all of the efforts that she had put through and done and all of these things. Unfortunately, the diamonds aren't always as bright and as valuable as you think. Those things, all the things that always shine aren't always gold.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the lesson, because it ended up being, not what was brought. It was the first time from the outside I was like, oh, contracts are horrible.
Okay.
And they definitely aren't what you're thinking they are sometimes, Like, we'll get you in a big house, but then I'm going to own you for the next 10 years was essentially what happened. So yeah,
did she do it for 10 years?
No. Oh. She ended up working for one of the so my mother is a phenomenal typer. She is probably one of the I say she is one of the smartest people that I have known in my life at the time. She had amazing clerical work, and I only say that because it ended up getting her to become an executive assistant for one of the top lawyers in Las Vegas. And in that effort, that lawyer helped her get out of what would have been a binding contract.
Oh, got it.
And it was because of that ended up just, her.
It kind of sounds like that was the way like Vegas worked, right? I mean, even if you look at Elvis Presley's story, he was imprisoned in Vegas, basically under a contract to sing all these songs, go on stage every night.
Yep.
It was a jail cell for him.
Yep. The things that come from contract that you don't know when, again, desperation puts people in a place where anything that looks like salvation they'll bite at any point, not seeing that there's a hook attached to it, and you're going to be mounted on the wall as a trophy for the person who's going to really get most of that money. And it was Vegas for a great deal of time. And for what it's worth, she did get out of it. She did have other ventures. She ended up singing as a Celine Dion impersonator.
Wow.
For Legends in Concert, which, I mean, still at the time one of the biggest shows at the time when they were there. She was one of the bigger acts that was in that scene. But it's what helped her I would say it's what helped her build the confidence to start creating for herself.
Sure.
And she started putting bands together. Now, I mean, God, she's doing bands with my best friend, who is a prolific drummer. Just some amazing shouts out to Chris Foster.
Okay.
Yeah. His dad, like multi-gold album winner, a creator, substantial artist. But they finally connected and started putting music together as a group.
Yeah.
And so, It's just amazing. Black Rose. Shout out to Black Rose. I gotta shout out the name.
So
for
Black
them.
Rose is your
Black
mom's.
Rose is mom's band. Yep, and
Black
she
Rose.
had been doing that for a while.
So how can we find like
shout
her
out to
content?
Darren Hurst.
Yeah.
Content you can find it on Facebook. Elena Crockett. Elena sings Vegas Chick Rocker.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Apple Music.
Apple Music. Well, so she does cover music.
Okay.
Not unfortunately, she does great. I mean, there's very few people who can hit the range of Journey and the like and Heart. I mean, God, she's amazing in that regard. But yeah, no, she's out in Vegas. She put a band together with one of my best friends from high school.
Okay.
And I mean, they've been out there doing it, but she's been doing that for years.
And do you talk to her often?
As often as can. They're coming out to visit me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would she like to perform at Levitt someday?
Oh, I imagine she would love to. Oh my God. I have been trying to figure out ways to get her out here and perform. I just,
I think we have some contacts at Levitt that we could
She'll-
get her out,
she's
get
gonna
her on the list.
Dude, she's going to be out here from August 6th to the 12th, and she's going to hang out with me over the farmer's market.
Okay.
We'll have her out here. It would be spectacular.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I would guess we'd have to figure out what kind of band she could get together for it. Because, yeah, local group would be awesome. She would kill it. Oh, that'd be amazing. She would love it.
It would be so fun.
That'd be a great way to just be like, hey, this is what Vegas is bringing.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah.
That's cool. So, I mean, it sounds like you're proud of her. You're proud of Mom.
Unbelievably. I mean,
Yeah.
For the things which I've had to overcome for myself, there are a numerous amount of lessons she has provided for me that have been the foundations for some of my successes that I've had in this world.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, hands down, I was raised by a lot of strong women.
Mm-hmm.
And if strong women means that, the things that they had to go through are the things that have made them strong, then my mother is a damn rock in comparison, if not hardened steel.
Yeah.
She has shown me what resilience means and what it looks like. And it is, I would say, for nothing else, it is definitely her, and she is the reason for a lot of that resilience that I have now.
So this is a conversation we have in this family, my family, about as a parent. Do you follow your voice in your heart and live your truth, live your life, or do you, just make sure that the kids are okay and that they go live their lives? So this is a question for you.
Okay.
Watching your mom, it sounds like follow her dream, live her truth.
There's an adverse to that.
Put some so what,
I'd be happy
would
to
you
share.
rather Mom didn't chase her dreams and just, was there for you, or was it inspiring to watch her go follow her dreams and go through all of this?
It's bittersweet in that regard.
Yeah.
The sweet, no, we'll start with the bitter. The bitter was that I think because I, as a young age, would always watch and see this, I got front row seat to what it looked like to be in the music industry, especially in the Vegas scene.
Sure.
I got front row seat to meet some amazing people. Sweet. I definitely had the difficulty of being seen because I sat watching my mom on stage. A lot of the times I was in the front row sitting there looking up at her all the time.
Yeah.
Bitter because it was like, how could I ever fill those shoes, But I also got the pleasure of being present to watching her grow and watching her overcome a lot of the fears and stresses and insecurities that she had.
Sure.
Super sweet. I would say that, definitely inspired for sure. Like, she's definitely a big reason why I even had the idea of pursuing that type of environment. Sweet for sure. But I was maybe both in the same regard as it gave me, it showed me why I needed to tread softly around people who boasted or were grandiose about what they provided or what they could do for you, but didn't show very much behind it.
Sure.
I've always been a very cautious person because of a lot of those experiences that she had.
Yeah.
It just, because of it, seeing how it could destroy you or how it could, it could set you up for failure when you think that these dreams are there and people are going to just swipe the rug underneath you.
Right.
That was a bittersweet. I would never take it back. ever. I would never wish her to not pursue it, because I think that was something that was necessary for her, because she had her internal conflicts that she had to pursue, she had to confront. Had I not gone through any of it, I don't think I would have developed the skill sets, or at least a recognition of what I've explored in myself today. And at least my understanding of the things that I've seen, and being able to come up and realize some of the things that I see, and navigate this crazy world in the way that I've been able to.
Right.
So I wouldn't change it for the world. I might have done some things differently, but no, nope. I think it is everything that it was meant to be, because the things that are in place and the things that she's doing now are everything that I was hopeful for. The group and band of the year are my mom and my homie Chris Foster. I kid you not. They could do it themselves, just them two. I mean, my God, he plays so many instruments, not just the drums. You know what I mean? Like, it was the thing that I had been hopeful for the longest time. And so I'm getting to watch a dream of mine from the outside, looking and watching and seeing it. And I'm just in awe. I'm in awe about it, because it's amazing. It's just warms my heart in that regard.
So when you kind of reflect on where you're going, what's that vision look like, and if you say 5 years, 10 years down the line, like, where do you want to be?
So
and I'll give you an out here.
Okay.
Right. I've learned in my own life, like, don't share your deepest secrets or where you're going sometimes, because then it's almost like the energy is released out of the balloon or something like that.
No, I'll be tactful.
Yeah.
I'll be tactful about it.
So whatever, you can share.
Yeah. No, so at least maybe I'll use personal development as the representation of it. I know that I have had a great deal of conflict and struggle within myself. I had been challenged once when I worked at REI by somebody who I thought was there to support me. They probably were, but they had asked if I was afraid of success. And, at the time, we look at that kind of question and we feel attacked by it. But when you get to a state of maturity, you realize, maybe there was a point and a reflection or perspective they were sharing that you weren't able to see at the time. I have always had concerns with success because of what I always thought it represented. And the same reason why I've never really pursued getting married or, had struggles with relationships. Because sometimes the closest relationships I had didn't really look appealing at the time. They didn't represent what I thought a marriage or a relationship should be or was meant to be. So for me, if nothing else, the next 10 years for me are definitely coming to terms with what it is that I am looking at pursuing in myself, coming to understand who Carl is. And, I never like talking about myself in the third person, but, there's a time for it sometimes. Who am I and who do I want to be? I've had this great opportunity to start working with Little Shire Farm. I've been with them now going on 6 years.
We're huge fans of them, by the way.
The things that they've created, what they produce and provide, I think is substantial for the community, even if it's honey and, candles and, CSA work. It's a husband and wife who break their back and bust their ass to create these things for people. And they do it out of the love. Sure, there's some financial aspects to it that are there, but the proof is in the pudding. They love what they do.
Right. And we love what they do.
Which is, and we're grateful for it.
It's one of the sweetest things.
It's true. But, it has been an opportunity for me to grow as a person. John challenges me every day in some way, shape, or form, in some degree. And I've been grateful for it. Him and I butt heads on the occasion, sometimes more often than not. But at the end, I think what I have been able to take from it is, what is it that I am meant to learn from the experience? What am I taking from it? Where do my emotional responses come from? Why am I responding and reacting that way? And that's been a big part. But on top of, what does it mean to be a business owner? What does it mean to contribute to your community? You know, if I hadn't gone through the rigors that I had with them, if I hadn't met the people that I've gotten to meet since I've been working at the farmers market, if I hadn't had these engagements, breakfast at would have never been a thing. I would have never thought about the idea, even though I had been doing it prior. To come to a creative realization that this is what I want to do in engagement with people. This is what I want to contribute and provide. It took all of those efforts to do the thing. It took all of those hardships to get to that point. You know, so for me, we're still growing. There's still these opportunities. You know, there's these efforts that are in place on the farm for growth and continual growth. And this is the first time where I get to be a part of it. I get to create a business for myself where I take what they've been producing to produce something for myself that I get to then utilize to contribute to the community.
Sure. For Little Shire Farms, like I know that I see you at the farmers market.
Yes.
And you're helping sell honey and the candles and the products that they make. Behind the scenes, how are you helping the farm?
Well, so to the best that we can, at least in, you know, when we have the time, farm work, you know, when there is the effort or need to get stuff done and you know, trimmed down or, you know, moving things around. We helped with some of the foundation of their house that they have. You know, I've helped kind of organize some of the things on the farm, kind of moving things around for them as needed. You know, we're still kind of working through that and what it means to communicate needs, you know, because sometimes that's hard. They had been doing it by themselves for the longest time and, you know, had gone through people who were there and gone. And I think Lisa was the one who said it. She's like, you know, you're the only person who stayed this long with us. And I mean, I took that to heart. I was grateful for that, you know, because I'm not a glutton for punishment anymore. I used to be a masochist for skateboarding. You have to be kind of, but you know, I recognized the benefit that I had. And so I was willing to put in the time and the work. And so here now I told them that, you know, I think it was the year before, I told them that I would put 5 years in to the development of what they had going on. And that was not just in the efforts of helping them, but through being able to contribute with my own aspects, my own products. So, you know, helping them out in sales. John inundates himself sometimes, but he does it because he's trying his best to get something off the ground. You know, so it was me trying to help him not hurt himself. You know, a guy who would make all of the honey in a day and then, you know, hardly sleep, do the farmer's market, then go home, maybe take a nap, and then DJ that very same night. I'm like, brother, let me help you, man. And I'd been in sales my entire life. So it was just an opportunity in that regard. But these days now, I think if nothing else, my efforts with that is to be present when they need help. Where I can help, you know, I'm there. There are aspects of, you know, the production of the honey that, you know, I don't need to be a part of. And, you know, they have their own things that they do because if I was there, I'd just get in the way, honestly. But no, I live on the farm and I help them in the little remedial tasks that I can. And, you know, work full time over at SDSU as well. So it's
That's good.
I
was an SDSU grad, as
awesome.
You know.
That's so great. So awesome.
So I'm a huge fan of the Jackrabbits and just the campus up there.
Shout out to 3 p.m. crew.
Yeah, there you go. So going back to Vegas for a second, I know you left Vegas at some point.
Yes.
Like, what was that leaving Vegas like, and what kind of made that happen?
Well, so leaving Vegas was my choice. It was my choice because after some circumstances that I was in a very interesting, unique relationship at the time. I was brought into this relationship with these two amazing individuals, and you know, it was different for me, but it was beautiful at the time, and it still, I look back at it as probably one of my most loved experiences because of where I was at in my own self. We ended up losing Brittany to suicide. November 2nd, 2015.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And as I explained, you know, it was hard at first to discuss and talk about it. But I think the more I had the conversation, the more I was able to talk about it, the less difficult it got.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of the catalyst that kind of wanted me, to leave Vegas. I was kind of done with the big cities. I was just done.
Yeah.
But it was also a part because, I knew Brittany, but I didn't know her to the degree at which I wish I had.
Mm-hmm.
I had beat myself up a lot thinking that I could have been the person to save the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
We get those moments where we're like, man, was it my fault? Did I do something? Did I not do something? What could I have done? And so a big part was like, well, if I move to the Midwest, it may give me an opportunity to determine what it was that I didn't get the opportunity to learn, and who she was and what she had to deal with as a person who was still trying to identify who she was as a person.
Yeah.
Did
you get any message or indication from her?
No.
So no letter or no message from her on
there was a
what
letter,
was going on with
but
her.
it wasn't. It unfortunately, again, so it was a triad that I was in at the time, and unfortunately, it was with two people who were dealing with their own insecurities and were unable to communicate some of the feelings that they had. And I think that because I didn't know how to communicate or ask the right questions, I felt sometimes, I used this term in the relationship, I felt like I was just a bystander.
Yeah.
I felt like I was just cannon fodder for two people. I was just here as a tool. And I had wished that I did not communicate that way. And so I will say that, after Caitlin and I decided to move to the Midwest, that was when we moved to Sheldon.
Sure.
Rented a room for, $200 for, the time.
Yeah.
We had talked about cohabitating, and then 2 weeks later after moving, was asked to leave. Which is okay. I was grateful for it because great things happened after that.
Right.
But it was, I think, the catalyst for me wanting to dive in better and be more attentive to who people are around me.
Sure.
Because if I'm not asking these questions, if I'm not diving in, if I'm not engaging in this way, I am doing a disservice to the people who may have things that I don't know about, may have these difficulties that they don't communicate and haven't communicated, don't know how to communicate, and what could be an opportunity to get them out of their head and belief of self-destruction could be, the thing that saves them.
Yeah.
And so, I will say that since I've moved to the Midwest, I think I've come to recognize, unfortunately, people out here have a lot of hard opinions about things that they may either, one, have no experience about, or are communicating out of fear because of their own beliefs, and are unwilling to even sit at the table just to listen. Why is it that you feel this way? Why is it that you believe this?
Right.
Why is it that you I think that this is who you are versus you being this?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that I've gotten, and why I think the Breakfast App podcast was created was because it was an opportunity. And Darren Voss was the first person who established the idea of sitting down. Well, he was the person who helped me with the catalyst of that.
Okay.
He was the one who wanted to meet me at the table because him and I came from very different environments. And it was because of him that we were able to talk about religion, but talk about it in a way that was explorative. I got to engage more with him and why he believed what he did. And I got to share with him why I struggled with even the idea, which weirdly enough brought me closer to a respect of what he had.
Yeah.
Why I can say these days, thank God, I believe in God. Yeah, and I've always said it, but my conviction is much deeper rooted now because he was willing to meet me at the table with no judgment.
Yeah.
And we were able to go in and explore that.
Yeah.
But without that, it would have, it wouldn't have happened. And so I was grateful for it. And I think that's a lot of the reason why my exploration, the way that I have it now, the way I ask questions, the reason why I try to create and believe in creating spaces for people in that way.
Yeah.
If we don't create spaces for people in that way, we miss an opportunity to present ourselves and show people that you are loved, you are seen, and you are cared for.
Right.
Yes, I have my insecurities. Yes, I have my perspectives, my beliefs, but those are mine and mine alone. And I shouldn't be, I don't have the right to project my beliefs on other people. but I can meet them at the table and ask why to believe them, and allow them to explain and give me that from themselves. And almost all the time, I walk away better than when I got to the table.
Sure.
And I hope most of the time that they do as well.
Yeah. I've never lost anybody in that way. I've lost people in my life, but I'm hypersensitive to, are you okay?
Yeah.
You know, are you doing okay? Because you're important.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I feel. And
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm sure if I really go back, I've got experiences where, you know, maybe I've made a positive impact on somebody's life. Not that they were about to do something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But how has that impacted or affected how you see your role as a man in a relationship?
Oh,
you know,
man.
whether you know.
No, that's a good point.
You know, like. There's this song, I can't remember the name of it, but there is no right way, baby. There is no right way, baby, in relationships, you know, and there's just so many versions of relationships and things like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, given your experience with relationships, you know, what's our role as men? How do we show up no matter what the relationship status or structure is?
I will say that I had to grow, and that probably goes back to some of the finding of myself from the lurch. I didn't really have a great representation of a male role model. I had a lot of mentors, but I didn't really have a great representation of what a good male figure as the counterpart in a marriage or relationship looked like. Up until I would say I understood who I was, up until I understood what boundaries were, up until I had started understanding, exploring what it meant to be, to be me. Because now I think that, you know, when I understood what boundaries were, I recognized, one, if I am going to meet my partner in the middle or halfway or be there for them, one, I have to have done the work for myself. I think and I look back at it, and I did a live about it at one point where I realized that the only reason why I struggled with relationships was because I didn't really understand myself. I didn't love myself. And if I didn't love myself, how could I love somebody else? And so for me, it was, well, and at least as of late, I have been completely... I have not been interested in really being in a relationship. I hadn't really been pursuing of it because I recognize that I have a lot of work to do on my own. Because in the same reason why I don't have a kid or I haven't, you know, had a child is because I just didn't feel right bringing a kid into this world and bringing them into something that I wasn't secure in my own self with, because I knew what baggage felt like, and I felt that same thing, you know, in a relationship. If I'm not doing my own work, how can I meet somebody halfway? How can I be present for them? And then on top of learning what it means to hold space, if I'm not willing to hold space for my partner, if I'm not willing to sit and listen to who they are, how can I deepen the relationship? How could the relationship find roots? How could it develop from there? If I'm not there, present, willing to sit and listen to some of the experiences, the hardships that they have gone through, you know,
without judgment,
because I mean, we all, you know, that's hard. It's hard to listen to somebody tell me a story about their life and the experiences and not feel a kind of way about it. You know, and on top of, you know, what does it mean to be upfront and honest? Unconditional love was something that my pops had introduced me to, and I was grateful for him in that. You know, well, but the idea that
in what way? Through his actions or through
just,
a book?
The book as well. But you know, through some of the things that he had expressed, the way in which he would express it and communicate some of those things, you know, it was definitely something that you take into consideration. Unconditional love. If I am able to meet that person unconditionally, I provide a space for them to fall back on when they feel like they've failed themselves. Because I imagine a lot of the times relationships struggle because, you know, we have these expectations, or at least these perceived expectations of our partner. And if we're not able to fulfill them, we we definitely get in our own head about them.
Sure.
We definitely beat ourselves up, and it feels like, well, I can't meet you at the table because you're gonna judge me on my faults. You're not going to help establish a process or something that I can, we're not gonna work through it.
Yeah.
We're just gonna, it's gonna be an argument. And that had been a great deal of what I had perceived to be what relationships were, And that was the other thing, like getting mad about stupid things or small things. I don't want to say stupid things, but getting mad about small things, things that are arbitrary, that really aren't that big of a deal, that could just take a conversation, are more likely to help sustain a relationship than the large things. The large things usually come with just misunderstanding or, again, lack of communication.
Yeah.
I don't imagine sometimes, except for, unless it's intentional, it's one of those things that people are, doing for that reason.
Yeah.
But, the small stuff, sometimes it's just a quip that a person has that they maybe not even recognize that was there, and being open to criticism. That's another one. How can I do better in a relationship if I'm not willing to see the person's perspective of me? If they're showing me things that I do that to them is maybe a detriment to the relationship, why wouldn't I give it the merit if they're willing to come up and talk about it, and they're willing to hold space for it and do it in a way that's non-judgmental?
You know what I heard recently? That it's more about women in a man's life, but they are mirrors to your life. Like they are the ones that just reflect to you how you're showing up as a man.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes. Criticism is hard no matter who you are. Like if you're just straight criticized.
It's real. Yeah.
But if a woman is sharing something with you or feeling something, I mean, that is a mirror to let you know that you've got some work to do.
Yeah. No, that's and I think, at least if nothing else, the opportunity to learn in a relationship and be that support. Because, what it is, women are more emotional creatures, where we are more logical creatures. Where is the middle ground in that? How do you support those halves, or at least those perspectives in a relationship? Can I sit at the table with my partner and accept that their emotional outburst is the only way or best way they have, at least right now, to convey what they're feeling? And then how can I present myself best for them to feel heard about what they're saying? And then how can I communicate what I'm expressing, even though it's not a entirely feeling-based thing, but how can I present the structure that I'm trying to present in solving a problem, or, providing an idea in a way that doesn't make them feel like I'm mansplaining.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm not mansplaining. I weirdly enough, I understand what the term mansplain, because unfortunately there are guys out there who just think that women are dumb and don't know any better, and I'm like, you guys are crazy. What do you mean? Like, there are smart women out there that are beautiful in just because they are intelligent. I'm a sapiophile. Sapiophile. I love intelligent women. It's just one of the things that it is a stimulating thing to have a conversation with a woman who is just brilliant and can dive into things in conversations and has a broad perspective of the world. Looks are very minuscule to me in regards to the overall, what I would consider to be a sustainable relationship.
Sure.
Looks are superficial. They won't last very long. But if I can sit and have a conversation in depth about the world, about physics, about just philosophy or perspective of where we're going, you have me for life.
Yeah.
Why would I want to leave that? That's
okay. Tell me a little bit about the podcast.
Sure.
And what you guys talk about. And how people can find it.
Solid. So the Breakfast At podcast.
The breakfast what?
The Breakfast At. So breakfast with the at symbol right at the back end of it.
Got it.
I tried doing any of the other things. It just didn't work out. And unfortunately, at the symbol isn't something you can use outside of, just typing, weirdly enough. So, Breakfast At just you can find me on YouTube. It was just effort in creating conversations with people that I had the opportunity of meeting in my day-to-day. I have had the opportunity to meet some amazing people, and a lot of the times, weirdly enough, it's always been in passing. When Brittany was with me at one time, we had stopped over at a gas station, and this really awesome dude and I just stopped and started having a conversation. It was brief as all get out, but it had stuck with me because it was like, man, I wish I had the ability to like sit and talk more with this guy. Like, I really wish I would have been able to dive in further.
Yeah.
But that brief moment was awesome. And so that is what kind of stuck with me, because that was a perpetuative thing that continued in my life. And so one day I was like, well, you know, how do we do that? Darren and I started doing that and created a framework, so to speak. And I think that was really what was the catalyst, where I was like, well, I love breakfast. My grandmother used to make breakfast for me all the time. Yeah. Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. At any point of the day,
Yeah.
I will have breakfast.
I just had breakfast for lunch yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, at any point, I'm happy for breakfast. I will eat breakfast.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I came to find was food is an amazing catalyst for people to be vulnerable. Food does it's one of the few things that we are inherently vulnerable while doing, is eating. And so I was, you know, well, if that's the case, breakfast is something that I love. I wonder if people would be interested in having breakfast with me, and then have a conversation and get to know and learn more about this person.
Yeah.
So let me buy you breakfast at gmail.com is my Gmail account. You can email me there if you're ever interested in having and being a part. I would love to have you on the podcast as well.
That'd be awesome.
That would be amazing. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube. But the premise pretty much is the people that I engage with. I ask them, you know, hey, let me buy you breakfast.
Okay.
We have that conversation, and then we set up a date. And what I do is I have them give me pretty much a synopsis of their life, who you are, where you've been, what you do, and where you're going.
Okay.
And it varies. Sometimes the paragraphs are long.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a page. Sometimes it's 2 pages. But what I do then is I curate questions, about 20 questions. And those are questions that I go through painstaking effort of like just trying to formulate and then do it in a way where it's a buildup, you know. Yeah. It's not easy to dive in immediately with hard questions.
Yeah.
You kind of still have to do a buildup for it, get people comfortable. Yeah. But it is a progressive thing that I think I've worked really hard at honing in that regard. And then, we go through 20 questions and we get an opportunity kind of like this just to learn about the person and dive into who they are.
Isn't it?
It is. Oh, my God. There are people I have had that I had Becky Mackins, somebody who I used to work for with Soccer Sprouts. Yeah. I thought I knew who she was. I thought I knew who she actually was. We sat down and I learned so much more about the person just by having questions ready to engage in.
Sure.
And man, if it hasn't been one of the most revealing things that we don't really know the people we think we know,
or what they're going through,
until we ask the questions.
Yeah.
And so if nothing else, it was a way for me to get out of the fear of asking questions, because I used to be, that was again like a lot of the conflict I felt after Brittany passed. It was like, why didn't I ask these things? I knew that there were things there, but I never asked these questions. I never dove in. So how can I grow from that?
Yeah. And
that was one of them, was, let me ask questions. And let me ask these questions of some of the people that I get to meet about their lives, about the things that they've gone through. And it's never like a gotcha kind of thing. I try my best to stay on with the things that they've provided.
Sure.
And maybe dive in a little bit further to try and, flesh out. Sometimes people have things that they share, but there's more behind it. Yeah. And so how can I ask a question that a person is willing to maybe go a little deeper in? Mm-hmm. How do I, how can I coax them into without feeling like I forced them into it or tricked them into answering the question?
Well, you just have a very trusting energy, right? I mean, I can see people opening up to you.
I've been
because you're vulnerable yourself.
And I think that has been a thing. A good portion of my life, people have said I'm very approachable. Yeah. And that's something that I've been grateful for, because I think that is a truth. Is I had to learn vulnerability at a young age, mm-hmm. and I really had to recognize that being an open book is difficult, mm-hmm. but it yields more results in the positive than in the negative. Yes, it is hard because I wear my feelings on my sleeve, but how I respond is on me. So I had to learn how to, control my feelings about things. I had to learn how to hone in and be considerate of my feelings and how I respond to things, and how not to wear other people's emotions on my body as well, because that's hard. Having a conversation about somebody who shares traumatic experiences is like somebody dumping a bulldozer bucket of dirt on you.
Right.
Oh my God, like that's heavy.
Yeah.
How do I take it in, hear them be present, but then also not walk away with that weight, and also maybe help them not walk away with that weight.
Well, that would be the greatest thing. This image that I got in my mind from somewhere, a meditation or something, is to imagine their issue in this bubble, tethered to you, and that you actually physically take scissors and cut that string, and let that bubble just float away.
I like the visual representation.
Yeah.
Because I guess if you could do it visually in your mind, so that's a step in the right direction. Because then it's like the symbolic into what I'm trying to. Yeah. But still not lose the lesson perhaps.
Yeah.
But Breakfast At Podcast on YouTube. I also have my the first 3 seasons that I ever did on Spotify.
Okay.
You can
same
find
thing.
it.
Breakfast At.
No, it's right. I'm still working through changing all of the names, but it was the Daily Grind, 88 Industries. So 80-8 Industries on Anchor, on Spotify, pretty much any Apple podcast. You could also find it under the inclusive table. And then the YouTube channel is officially the hub where now, because it's videography, that's where my new platform is.
And what's the YouTube channel?
YouTube channel is the Breakfast At Podcast. And it's 88 Industries, but it is its own YouTube channel. Okay. It's completely, because I figured let's just keep that honed in on its own. It deserves its own little thing. So,
all right. Is there anything else you want to share or you have on your mind today as we wrap things up?
So here's a funny yet I would say revealing thing. I was driving my truck last night home, and I was turning off to my dirt road that leads to my house. And immediately after doing so, I lost control of my steering and lost steering entirely.
Wow.
When I got out of my truck and I go to look, the pin that is in the linkage for my steering column popped all the way out and completely dismantled.
Wow.
And so had I been driving any faster and had it done that any other time, I probably would have rolled and lost my entire. I might not have been here. I might not have made it home.
Yeah.
And that was last night. And the funny part is that there were things that had happened that I thought were amazing, because that same vehicle, when I first bought it, had what was thick gauged wire wrapped around that same linkage.
Okay.
And people were I would watch people look at it and like, oh, what is this guy crazy? Blah, blah. I would watch people make fun of the truck for that. And I had to come to terms, because of course, one, we're susceptible to thinking that there are nefarious actors out there trying to cause you harm.
Right.
The first place that my mind would have gone was, man, somebody's out there trying to hurt me. Somebody's out there just trying, I went and dropped it off at this place to get my tire changed, and maybe they pulled it together. And then part of me was like, well, interesting. That's the exact same place that wire was wrapped around.
Yeah.
Maybe the person who had it before me knew that because that linkage has constant movement like this and the bolt sits underneath it, maybe that pin always came out. Maybe in essence the bolt just started moving and unthreading itself over time. And that's why he did that. That's why it was that way.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy that would have made sense. And everybody who had ever worked on it was like, we need to take that off because it's not.
Let's do it right.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe the person who's there. The moral of the story: always be cognizant and check your vehicle. Always be aware of the operations of your vehicle, because you never know. you never know what's wrong. You never know.
Just throw me that gold coin right in front of you, the gold one. So check this out. Read that.
You could leave life right now. It's still so true. Memento mori. Memento mori.
Yeah.
You could leave life right now. This is such a true statement, and I thank you for sharing that because, man, if nothing else, that has been a truth that I think I've had to accept and recognize that maybe has gotten me through a lot of my difficulties internally. That, the hardships that I go through, they're hardships that I can overcome. I have had this amazing opportunity to manage 20-some people in an environment that I had never been a part of, that I'd never engaged in this degree. And all of the hardships that we had gone through, I could have looked at and been like, this is the dumbest. Why am I here? What am I doing? And in this, you're like, you could leave life right now. It could be far worse.
Yeah.
And if you're not gaining or taking lessons from whatever experience that didn't kill you, you're missing the point. Mm-hmm. Instead of beating yourself up and pointing the finger at other people, instead of just self-destruction, what is it that I can take from this moment that can help me grow for my future?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you, sir.
And I look at this and I think, do that thing that is in your heart. Do it.
That's real.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sitting down today. This has been
awesome.
Inspiring.
This is amazing.
And
Thank you.
I've got to know you way more than
I did
before.
No, that's great.
I mean, it's amazing.
It's
and
great.
I'll be looking forward to buying a gallon of honey from you.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, you know where to find me.
Yeah, next time I can. But we look forward to hearing more of your content.
I appreciate that.
Your poetry, your spoken word, your podcast. Like we need that. So
and I'm grateful. There is a great difficulty that comes with being seen. And I think with this past episode that I had an awesome friend, Haley Hoffer, who, I've gotten to see as an artist grow immensely. And one of the biggest struggles she had to confront in herself and had shared in the podcast that we had just done, that we just debuted this past week or this week, was being seen. Mm-hmm. It is difficult for us to feel seen sometimes. And sometimes being seen is the thing, even though that's what we want, that is the thing that holds us back the most, is that, we're afraid of being seen by people because of the judgment, when almost always being seen and saying and speaking and doing the thing is the thing that sets us free and gets us out of whatever bog or spot that we're in that's just feels desolate and encompassing, but it's there.
The obstacle is the way.
It is indeed.
All right, well, thank you guys. We're gonna end it here.
Thank you guys.
And,
thank you, sir.
We'll,
Danny, this was amazing.
We'll have breakfast someday.
Yes, sir. Oh, don't be surprised if you get an email from me.
All right, thank you so much.
Until next time.
All right.